what's up everybody? I'm unbelievably excited because it's snowing so much and I'm gonna go out to shoot right now. I've been waiting all winter for it to finally snow, but it's been like, I don't know, it didn't want to snow. So I met up with Paul, who you've all seen in the last video as well, and we headed off to take some photos.
Let's go.
Let's go.
I didn't really get any great shots at first. Oh. Sorry guys, yeah, I forgot the audio banana. I didn't really get any great shots at first. When I go out to take photos, it always takes me a while to warm up. I feel like I need to get through at least half an hour of bad photos before my photography goes from bad to aggressively mediocre. Today, I just want to talk a bit about my fun cameras. Yeah, I own modern, expensive, and amazing camera gear, but still, so often I just gravitate to using older cameras that maybe are a bit crappy by today's standards, but I just find really fun to use. And I think probably the most fun digital camera I own has to be this potato. This is the Nikon D2X, the best camera money could buy in 2005. When this camera released, I was 4 years old and probably eating glue. I mean, there has to be some childhood event that explains the origins of this YouTube channel. I haven't used the D2X in a while, despite it being one of my favorite cameras to use. It's just this big, chunky pro body DSLR, and despite it being almost 2 decades old, it's crazy fast, super responsive, and the autofocus is actually shockingly good. Here's a photo I took of an absolute massive piece of machinery. Oh yeah, and there's some construction equipment right next to him. For some reason, I had a real fascination with this red wheel. I think the longer I do this photography thing, the more I get drawn to stupidly simple compositions.
Boah, das ist cool. Das ist geil. Das ist so eine richtige Filmphotographer-Composition. Oh Gott, rutschig.
This is another example of a super boring composition, but I liked the colors and I was still warming up. Also, here's another photo of random construction equipment. For some reason, the good photos are still coming. I swear it gets better. Another reason why I brought out the Nikon D2X on this day is self-defense. If anybody makes fun of your shoes, you just clock them with this cinder block of a camera. No, I'm just kidding. I brought it because it was still snowing a lot, and if the D2X were to break, it wouldn't be that tragic. I mean, it would suck, but I wouldn't have to sell another kidney to get a new one. I got mine for 150 bucks from MPB in a well-used condition. It looks about as good as that one Yu-Gi-Oh card you had as a kid that accidentally landed in the washing machine. But for that money, it's a steal and a super capable camera. We randomly found this barbershop I've never seen before despite living here for over 4 years, but instead of getting a haircut, which I desperately need, I just walked inside and asked if they needed a photographer because I really liked the vibe of the place. They gave me an email to write to, so we'll see. Remember the saying, you miss 100% of the shots you miss. Or, I don't know, I forgot the rest. I'm really happy with this shot I got through the foggy window. This is definitely one of my favorite shots of the day, but I couldn't really decide on how to edit this image. I like the color version, but the black and white also makes it feel a bit like it's actually from the 50s. By the way, all of the shots in this video are edited with my new disposable Vibes Lightroom preset pack, which I have just released like a week ago. These presets give you that super nice film look, but can also be used for a clean street photography look. As you can tell in this video, I just flip-flop between the two looks while editing the images. Also, thank you so much to everybody who's picked up one of my preset packs, because I don't really have any sponsors for these videos or anything, and any support from you allows me to keep making more of these videos. Okay, yeah, I think this microphone is just gonna smell like banana forever now. These older pro body DSLRs have hardware switches and buttons for pretty much everything, which is perfect when you're out and you don't want to be digging through menus all the time. And not digging through menus is especially nice when you have gloves on. The ergonomics, the button placement, and the vertical grip on the D2X just make it a super fun and pleasant camera to use. But it's also absolutely huge. Back in the Middle Ages, people actually used these to forge armor instead of hitting the metal with a hammer. True story. Though on the flip side, that of course also makes this camera the absolute opposite of what you would want for street photography. All of the Leica nerds with their curtain shutters trying to be sneaky and all of that, but I don't care. I just went into this day guns blazing with this absolute anvil of a camera, firing my shutter that sounds like artillery. Yeah, it's definitely not a sneaky camera, but actually nobody cared. The image quality out of the Nikon D2X is pretty good considering it's basically old enough to be in university. It's got a 12 megapixel APS-C sensor, and I was using an 18 to 55 kit lens because it gave me some options for zooming, and again, if it were to break, I wouldn't have to hold a funeral for my bank account. At this point, I noticed a guy who was trying to use like a big oven dish to slide down the street, so I asked him if he wanted to push.
Soll ich dich anschieben?
Ja.
Ja? Okay.
Oha. Ja.
Right after that, I saw a guy walk past me who had long hair and a big beard completely filled with snow, so I asked him if I could take a photo.
Hey, sorry, kann ich ein Foto von dir machen?
Wenn du möchtest, ja.
Aber ich finde das voll nice mit dem Schnee in deinem Bart und so, das ist voll geil. Ja, guck einfach gerade in die Linse, oder?
At this point, it was already getting dark and my setup definitely wasn't great for low light, so I just used Paul's camera. After all that excitement, we put our great minds together and decided the best course of action was to get some hot chocolate. Afterwards, Paul said he had to leave and go study, but to be honest, I just think he was done with freezing for the day. I wasn't really that happy yet with the photos I had gotten until now, so I decided to head out into the dark and give it another shot. I took some more photos with the Nikon D2X, but quickly realized that 2005's low light capabilities and the kit lens chilling at f4.5 weren't going to cut it anymore. The maximum ISO of the D2X is 3200, but that does give you a shit ton of noise. I feel like it can still work, especially for black and white images, but with the kit lens it felt like an uphill battle in a snowstorm. Oh, wait a minute, that's what it was. Okay, that sounded cooler in my head. And almost slipping in the snow was probably the closest I've ever gotten to suffering for my art. Anyways, I then got out the Fujifilm X-T1 to give me some better chances in the dim lighting. Attached to it is the XC 35mm f2 lens.
Hi, sorry, bist du der Besitzer? Nee. Nee? Achso. Ich wollte fragen, ob ihr einen Fotografen oder Videografen mal braucht.
Just like the Nikon D2X, I love the X-T1 because it's got so many physical dials for everything, and I also had the battery grip attached to it, which really improves the X-T1's ergonomics and makes it extra fun to use. I just set the camera to continuous low and started my favorite street photography tactic of spray and pray. But I made one gigantic mistake. I accidentally had the camera set to JPEGs and I didn't realize it, and to make things worse, it wasn't even JPEGs on the highest quality, it was on normal quality, which is the equivalent of taking a painting you just drew, folding it down to make it really small, and then be confused when it doesn't look good anymore once you unfold it again. I was so annoyed when I was pulling the photos off the SD card and realized, wow, instead of 30 megabyte RAW files, I have 3 megabyte JPEGs. Great. To my surprise, I was still able to edit the JPEGs pretty well using my presets. The only problem was that in the super dim lighting, the camera's noise reduction kicked in heavily and had made some of the images look kind of weird. But yeah, luckily the images turned out more or less usable. I just hope my peanut brain learns from this mistake, but this was not the first time this has happened. I actually managed to get two of my favorite shots from the day back to back here. First, this really cinematic feeling shot in front of this restaurant where a handful of guys serve you food, and then this shot of two kids playing in the snow silhouetted against the bright lights of a storefront. I really wish this shot had been in RAW and had a bit better quality, but whatever, I've since already bought more camera gear to get my dopamine levels up again, so it's fine. At this point I ran out of space on my GoPro, so this video just went from POV street photography to just disappointment. After walking around some more, the funniest thing started to unfold in front of me. This older guy was walking through the snow with his bike, and his friend stops him and says, "There's no way you can take your bike, it's way too dangerous in these conditions." And literally as he was saying that, a guy on a fucking unicycle pedals past them through the snow. Like, the timing couldn't have been better. When I say I want to tell stories through my filmmaking, this is the type of stories I mean, none of that artsy-fartsy stuff. At this point I was absolutely freezing. I then got frostbite and died. The end.